This is the Financially Simple Podcast, a show dedicated to destroying the complexities of money for today's small business owner. And now, here's your host, pizza-loving, certified financial planner, Justin Goodbread.
Welcome to Financially Simple. This is a finance show for small business owners about money, how it works in our business and our personal lives, and how we can build wealth to be financially independent. I'm your host, Justin Goodbread, and today is episode 6. Today's episode is titled, How Strong is Your Bench? So if you're like me, when I first hear this question, how strong is your bench? I'm thinking of that big barrel-chested workout buff at the gym, right? I mean, you know the ones who are always standing around the bench talking about how much they can bench press. I mean, people take pride in they can bench press a house. You know the guys. I mean, you stand them over there. These are the ones who are like grunting and screaming and carrying on. And you're just like, dude, really? Seriously, take a chill pill, man. Yeah, that's not what I'm referring to in that particular question. Instead of thinking about the gym, let's think about maybe your favorite sports team. Or perhaps we think about a football team more specifically. And I'll use that as my analogy for this particular podcast. So in Knoxville, Tennessee, we are home to the University of Tennessee Volunteers, the football team. And, you know, up years, down years, everything. We get to see the boys in orange run out into the field and just slug it out on the gridiron. You know, in college football, it's not uncommon to have 55 to 85 players on a team. And some schools have 3 to 4 people deep per position. Again, I was listening to the University of Alabama and how they recruit. And I heard the coach say, you know, we're recruiting 4 years out. And what they're looking for is they're trying to make sure they have enough star players to fill every position on that team so that they can ultimately win the victory. If you've watched any type of football game or maybe even rugby or baseball, etc., the team that has the deepest or the strongest bench is often awarded the victory. You see this in basketball a lot, the rotation of players taking place, and how they rotate players in and off the court very fast to save the strength of the overall team. The difference, though, is football is not business. In business, there aren't any second strings. Every player in our business, they have to be an all-star. So as I mentioned in episode 5, you must hire the best people you can afford. The right executives, the right division heads, the correct managers are vital to the growth of your business. These players or these team members for your business can break or make your business. They can add to the success and growth. So if you can build the all-star team in your business, you will win the proverbial business championship. You can be that all-star. You can be that national champion style business. So where do you start? You know, that's the question I always ask myself is, yeah, I get that I need to do this, but my goodness, there's not enough time in the day. How in the world am I going to make this happen? Well, the first thing that we've got to identify as business owners, and I'm including this, folks, I'm right here with you, is the position or the team member which will add the most value to the business. You know, as the founder, as the business owner, our strengths will shine. Many times people can see our strengths. But at the same time, our weaknesses are also glaring in our faces many times. So if it's just you, the entrepreneur right now, or maybe you have a team member and you don't have really any management or executive level people, the first choice that I always look for is to find the areas that I need to strengthen, those areas that I'm the weakest in. And I want to hire people to come in and strengthen my business, offset my skill set. So let's go back to the football analogy. Suppose your football team has an unbelievable quarterback and your wide receivers are just top notch. I mean, these players can catch anything. It's like they have glue on their hands, right? But your running team struggles. Well, now may be the time to hire some strong running backs. Maybe it's time to recruit the line to help poke holes to the defense so that your running backs can go through. Well, you get the point. Business is the same way. If I am strong in one area of my business but weak in others, I'm going to look for those areas of weakness. I'm going to look for those clogs, if you will, that prevent my service or my product from reaching my ideal customer, that's preventing me from maintaining customers. or wherever that break is in my business, and I'm going to recruit somebody who is a top-notch executive to come in and fill that position. The second step we take is once you know the position we're attempting to fulfill, now we're going to need to know how to recruit that team member. How are we going to bring them on board? If we know who we need, how do we find them? You know, in the football world, recruiters spend a lot of their time taking the information from the scouts and then trying to convince, persuade, encourage, whatever they can do, motivate the players or that potential player to join the team. Unlike college football, we can hire out this position. We can hire out the recruiter position. So how do you do that if you're going to hire somebody? Well, you can maintain what's called a headhunter firm. That's a slang term. Now they're called agencies to find and identify the talent that you need for your business. And there's two types of agencies. There's what's called a retained agency, and there's what's called a contingent agency. They're probably self-explanatory, but I'm going to describe them for you nonetheless. A retained agency is where you hire an agency and you pay them a fixed fee. And this agency that you paid a fixed fee to is going to conduct a thorough talent search. They're going to interview the talent. They're going to do background checks. Many times they'll even help negotiate the compensation on behalf of you, the business owner of the business. That's a retained agency. What many small businesses opt for, and I personally have done this myself, is to use, instead of a retained agency, to use what's called a contingency-based agency. So that word contingency, you probably recognize it because many attorneys work on that level, depending on the type of practice. But basically, the contingent agency is only paid when the talent or when you hire that recruit. The benefit of a contingent agency is you don't pay if you don't hire. Instead of hiring an agency, though, you may decide to just buck up and do it yourself. Anyone who's ever attempted to hire somebody knows it is a major, major, major time drain. I have spent hours upon hours upon hours trying to hire somebody in my career, in my jobs, in my businesses, only to find out the person has taken other jobs somewhere else and I'm let down. So if you've attempted to hire somebody, you know it's frustrating. But in the early days of our business, or whenever we're dealing with small business, many times we are the chef, we are the cook, we are the chief bottle washer. We're all three in the same. So we may be forced to hire someone. So if that's you and you don't have time or you don't have the resources or you don't have the money to go out and hire an agency to do this on your behalf, you're going to have to conduct some extensive, I'm talking about deep due diligence. You're going to check the applicant's references. You're going to look at their social media profiles. You're going to interview. Whenever I personally conduct interviews, I always have the prospective talent do some or all of the work that they are going to have to fulfill in that job duty. So in addition to that, I'm always interviewing multiple clients. So for example, let's say I want to hire somebody to answer the phone. That's a pretty simple job. But let's say that's all I need to hire a receptionist who's going to answer the phone and greet people. I may interview 5 or 6 qualified candidates at one time and put them through the ringer, so to speak, and let them fulfill the job they're going to do. And then I can compare the skills of those 5 or 6 different candidates for that one task. Now, obviously, the skills are only one part of the job. I personally will always choose character over skills. To me, character is paramount. I want somebody I can trust. I want somebody that our customers and our clients can trust, that the rest of the team can get along with and trust. And many times whenever I'm going through the hiring process, I want to provide enough time in that process where the candidate that I ultimately want to hire will mess up. I want them to stumble a little bit because I want to see how they're going to handle that failure, that mess up. I want to see if they're going to own up. I want to see if they're going to point out their own weaknesses and make corrections. So if you're taking on this role of actually trying to find candidates on behalf of your business, you're going to have to do some deep due diligence. But don't stop there. Always, always, always speak with your legal counsel in the hiring process. Tell them what you're trying to do. I'm a firm believer, you know this, work with a good CFP, good CPA, and a good tax attorney or good business attorney. Now's the time when you need a good business or attorney in your court. You want to be able to talk to them about what your thoughts are. They're going to help you with the contracts. Sometimes the attorney will even help with the negotiations and the hiring of that individual. You know, once you master, though, this process, whether it be going through an agency or you hiring the individual yourself, you're going to continue and repeat this process until you've built out your entire executive team. You're like, hold a second, Justin. I thought we were just hiring somebody. Yeah, no. We're trying to hire out the entire executive team because we want a business which operates autonomously without you, the founder, without you, the grand poobah, if you will, the person who started this business. We want the company to operate without you there. Why? Well, the reason for it is that business which operates without the person who founded the company, if they can walk away and that business can operate autonomously without them, that company brings the highest market price almost every time. But here's a problem. You're probably asking at this point, how in the world, Justin, am I going to afford this? Or maybe you're asking, why do I even need to hire an executive team? So let's answer both of those questions. Let's deal with the latter first. Why do you need to hire an executive team? First of all, what is an executive team? An executive team is going to be the individuals who run the company without you there. They may be a sales manager. They may be a finance manager. They may be a legal manager, a marketing manager. They may be an operations manager. Whatever that is in your particular company, that's what the executive team is. But here's why they are so important. You are not going to grow to the potential of your company unless you relinquish control of your business. You have to let go of the reins. That is hard, especially for us entrepreneurs. I'm talking about me, Justin. Maybe you're like, dude, I would so glad let somebody come in and take this. Me, it's one of the hardest things I have. Why? Because I have spent years, countless hours, blood, sweat, tears, money, energy, resources, self-education, getting to where I'm at today. And now all of a sudden, I'm going to trust my baby, if you will, with somebody who doesn't understand all the sacrifice who has helped us reach this point. So if I'm going to grow my business, I'm going to have to relinquish control. Have you ever seen that organization where they have that one person who has to sign off on everything and how inefficient those organizations operate? I know of a particular college that the president of the college has to approve every little thing. And it's like if the guy's out of town, the college goes stagnant. It doesn't move forward in any way. That is not efficient. Think about it when you go to sell your business. If the whole business is surrounded around you, the entrepreneur, what's that buyer going to do if you're gone? That company doesn't know how to operate. So you've got to relinquish control of your business. That's why you hire an executive team. Your executive team also, or your bench, let's call it our bench. Your bench is what makes your company more attractive to investors. So on that thought I was just talking about, if you're the grand poobah of the company and everything has to center around your say-so, whenever the investor comes in and buys you out, how is the company going to operate? Well, the executive team will be there. If you sell the company and you have the team built to where they can operate the company without your presence, then that is going to be much more attractive to investors who don't want to get in and do the operation like you are, but instead they want to invest in your company and double or triple their revenue and then potentially sell it again. So your executive team is what makes your company more attractive. And here's the last point on why you want to hire one. Without an executive team present, your business is going to plateau. Some people use the word annuitize. It's going to become stagnant, or you will die. I'm not talking about like figuratively. I'm talking about physically. Whenever we become that one person who does everything, and everybody has to have permission from us, that is overworked. And whenever we become overworked and overstressed, we cannot produce at our peak performance. And yes, you could die. I know, so maybe a little morbid. Let's go back to the other one and get off that subject, but your business will plateau. Without talent, you can only drive your business so far. Look at every major business that you can think of, and I'm not going to name names here, but think of any major business, and you'll see where they constantly are changing managers. They're constantly changing CEOs because they're constantly trying to push that business to new highs. So that's why you need an executive team.
You are listening to Financially Simple, destroying the complexities of money for today's small business owner.
Now, the other question that I ask is, what's it going to cost me? How am I going to pay for it? Well, let me give you an example. I'm going to call this example person's name Fred. So years ago, I began working with Fred. And as I was analyzing his business, doing some business coaching with him, doing some financial planning with Fred, I recognized that Fred needed to hire a professional manager for his business. He had family members that were operating the business. And I recognized very quick that we had some major issues, if you will, in this business. Now, Fred didn't agree. He used the word trust. Well, I trust my family, and I understood he did. But when I was looking at trying to grow a business to sell it, the first thing I told him is, Fred, we need to hire a professional manager for this business. So after a few years, Fred finally took the advice and he hired a professional manager. What do you think happened? Now, this is not the norm by no means, but in this particular case, that professional manager came in and that business gained 40% growth in the first 6 months. Now, is that to say that just every time you hire a professional manager, it's going to, no, that's not it at all. My point is this. Many times it's going to cost you less than you expect. However, whenever your actual dollar out of pocket, when you hire the executive, it's going to be more than you want to spend, but it'll cost you much less if you never make the decision. So let's go back to Fred. Fred had to pay this professional manager about 20% more than he expected, and he almost choked. It was like he was eating carrots and the carrot went down the wrong tube and he was choking on this price, right? But it didn't cost him as much as the delay. In fact, as soon as the professional manager got in and started working in that business, his business grew 40%, which by far superseded any cost that he had on a management level. So how much is it going to cost you? It's going to cost you more than you want to spend to hire a good executive team. But in the long run, it's going to cost you much less than if you don't. That's what I'm getting at, folks. Only after Fred took the plunge and hired this professional manager was he able to see how high-quality executive team actually works. Very seldom is it the case where the company can afford the talent. So what I get is, well, Justin, I can't afford it. Well, that's typically not the case. Very seldom is that the case. Most of the time, it's just a matter of where we're allocating the dollars. So whenever I go into a company, I look at the way they're allocated, I look in the P&L, and I'm coaching the business owner on how to achieve their personal financial goals and the business goals, there's usually enough money to deal with hiring the executive team. And if there's not immediately, at least we can start making some tactical moves to help the company achieve this idealistic executive team so that we can become attractive and so that we can build an unbelievable bench to compete in the business market. You just have to decide you're going to do it. That's honestly the case. Most of the time, it's not the money. So how do you deal with this? How do you deal with the pay then on these executives? Yeah, a good bench is not cheap. You know, many times when we watch professional athletes, these folks are paid, well, in my opinion, they often seem to be paid more than what I think they're worth. But let's take a glimpse from the professional athletes and the way the business of sports operates. A rookie mistake to make in business is to be cheap on the hire, trying to discount what that executive is really worth. In fact, if you're trying to be cheap on your hire, it can actually end up costing you more long-term than just paying somebody. So whenever I hire people, I research the market position that I'm seeking to hire them out, and then I top the market price. So let's say that position in the market pays $50,000. I may go in and offer $55,000, but not just with the basic salary package. I won't stop there. I want to put a nice bonus compensation plan in place. Why? Because I don't think you can overpay the right team. I don't think you can. You may be saying, Justin, you don't think you can overpay the team? Yeah, hear me out. You might hire the wrong player, but if your motivation is to win championships, whenever you put that ring on your finger or whenever you hold that big cup, whenever you get the championship, very seldom do you question the compensation of the players on the team. You might hire wrong, but the right team members will be motivated and therefore will be motivated by compensation and bonus structures. When I was a kid, my mom used to say, son, you clean out a horse stall with a fondue fork if someone paid you enough. And I agree with that. Money is an awesome motivator. It can motivate us to do good, and it also, unfortunately, can motivate us to do evil. But when we hire team members, the team members will be motivated more if they're paid what they think they are worth. The last thing you want to have is a disagreement between what you think the talent is worth and what the talent thinks they're worth. If you don't pay the talent what they think they're worth in the marketplace, then they're not going to be motivated. Perhaps that's some of the problems you have in your business. Maybe you're like, man, I can't get people to perform. Well, Are you paying them what they believe they're worth? You say, well, no, they think they're worth $100,000, but the marketplace only pays them $50,000. I get it. So this is where a good bonus plan comes into play. So this is where you can agree on a base salary that is fair, that is comparable to where they want to achieve. And then you can put bonus structures in place that motivates the entire team to reach that championship goal. So remember, you want to pay them what they think they're worth. If they don't think they're worth that, hedge the bet with a bonus structure. Now look, I'm a firm believer in having outside help negotiate employment terms. I love that. This is where I often say hire a good business coach or a lawyer and they can help you. If you're negotiating a contract yourself with outside talent or you're trying to bring in talent to your team, never, I can't say never enough, never allow the negotiations to become contentious. You can't do it. The last thing you want to have happen is a new team member come on the team that is disgruntled or upset, thinking that you're undercutting them. No, you don't see that in the sports world. If we're going to stick with our sports analogy in this podcast, no. You see, it's a win-win. Now, do they always get the contract that they want? Not always. Sometimes they get more. Sometimes they get less. But nonetheless, whenever that player joins that team, they come in with the idea that it's a win-win and everybody's going to try. So look at hiring a team of all-stars. You want to build an executive team that's full of all-stars. That's what wins championships. That's what wins the business world. But it's not easy. It's going to take time, patience. It's going to take tact. You're going to have a good plan. And yes, it's going to require some money. And it's not going to happen overnight. But if you perform the recruiting and the placement task of your business and you build that bench, which is exceptional. I mean, you've got a deep bench, a very strong bench of players, a good team together. You will be rewarded with good growth. Why? Because you got all-stars on your team. And when the time comes to sell the business, which is what we're talking about, how do we get a business ready to sell? When that time comes, you will be rewarded in the sales price. Remember, investors want to have an awesome business to invest their money in. And if you have an awesome team, which is let's face it, they are the business many times, you are going to be rewarded handsomely in the sales price. So what's the next step for you? How's your team? How's your bench? You're like, dude, it's weak and anemic. All right, correct it. Get a game plan. There's not a team that ever wins a championship that doesn't start out 2 or 3 or 4 years ahead of that with a game plan on what they're going to need as far as players on that team to win the championship. Business is no different, folks. Business requires us to take a step back, look at where we want to be, build a game plan, hold ourselves accountable, and then achieve those goals. So the last question for you is, how's your bench? You have a bench of all-stars? If not, why not? Let's get rid of the excuses and let's go build a dream bench. Your business depends on it and your future depends on it. So guys, that's it for this episode. Episode 6 in the books. Look, I often say it. Life is hard. Employees, goodness, they can be difficult. They can be stressful, but they can also be your biggest blessing. Money doesn't have to be and business doesn't have to be. Let's continue to make your lives at least financially simple. Y'all make it a great day.
You have been listening to the Financially Simple podcast. The information in this show is for informational purposes only. This show is not investment advice. Instead, seek help from a competent financial advisor. Justin Goodbread, CFP, is an investment advisor representative of Heritage Investors, a registered investment advisor.